Welcome back to our second weekly Biz Buzzworthy event. My name is Natasha Mitchell. I'm joined by Lee Mitchell, and we are here to just have some real conversations about what's happening in business, what's working for us in business, trending topics that are happening in the media, in the business world. That's what it's all about. So we welcome you today. Today's topic is all about saying no to things to open up more opportunities. So we encourage you to join us in the chat. Let us know you're here. If you put your name at the front of the question, then we will know who it is who is joining us, and we'll be here for about 20 minutes today. So welcome. Hi, Lee. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good. I'm trying to figure out life with a puppy, which hasn't been the easiest journey, let's say. But other than that, I'm feeling really good.
Amazing. Well,
how are you?
Good. We're slowly getting some slightly better weather here, so that's good, and that always lifts everyone's spirit and makes it a little bit more bearable and optimistic for the future. I see we've got a few people joining us live now. Feel free to just say hi in the chat. Let us know who's here, and we're going to jump into our conversation, which is all about saying no to open up new opportunities. So, Lee, something we all know as business owners is that, we can often say yes to things that don't really fit for us. And, one of the things that I'm passionate about is simplifying business, trying to get people out of that overload. And one of the biggest barriers, I think, to that is that people are just saying no to too many things. I mean, saying yes to too many things and not saying no to enough things. And, this can really affect us. It can help, it can really make us feel overloaded, can make us feel stressed. So we're going to just talk about a few of those instances as why people are saying yes to so many things, and also share a few ideas as to, how to get out of this trap of saying yes to everything, and share some of our own experiences on that. So, that's kind of where we're starting off today, and there's a few things that we want to talk about. It's like taking work because you're feeling kind of scarcity in the moment. We want to dig into a little bit about discovery calls and why they're so important, and we want to sort of talk a little bit about just using our own intuition sometimes and our own radar to make that judgment call. So, has there been a situation that you found, or do you ever find yourself saying yes to things, and then afterwards sort of regretting that? Has there been any situations that you've experienced like that?
Yeah, for sure. I think things related to your children, like volunteering opportunities, I think that's really difficult one, because you want to be there for your children, and you also want to like give back to your community, but that can leave a lot of working parents really struggling to manage everything. So I think that's one issue that I've struggled with. And then, like you said, that discovery call process. So some of what I experience is trying to figure out who to have those exploratory calls with. You always want them to turn into business opportunities, but they don't always, and sometimes they can really eat up your time. So really kind of having that customer avatar in advance, and really trying to stick to that might help with some of those issues, so that you're not going after like a variety of different people that maybe you don't know the needs of as well. So if you sort of focus on a niche, then perhaps you'll know whether or not you're potentially going to work with someone that fits with your core values, and you understand the industry. I think that's really important. So as entrepreneurs, we can kind of get the shiny ball syndrome, where we're like, oh well, that's a good idea, and this is a good idea. So sometimes you just have to stop and give yourself a bit of time to think through whether or not this is something for you. That 24-hour rule.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think you touch on two important things, and I'm going to kind of separate that into the two buckets. One is there's sort of like the family commitments, the commitments with the kids, volunteering generally. Some of those things, it's a real balance between saying no and having that experience, right? So I think there is a real balance of, obviously you can't say yes to everything at the expense of your own business, your health. But I think there is sort of then another side of that is like, in order to do that volunteering that maybe you really want to do, and that, that's an opportunity to spend time with your children, and that's an experience that you're never going to get back. Maybe you need to say no to some things on the other side of that. And I think there's, I don't have children, but, a lot of my clients and our community has children. And I know that, those are times that you're never going to get back with people. So maybe there's an opportunity there to say, you know what, I can do at the start of the year, maybe thinking through that and saying, I can do 3 volunteering events, or I've got 10 hours that I can spend on volunteering. And then you can make that judgment call. Either you just use up those 10 hours, and then anything else that comes across is like, you know what, I'm not available for that. Or you say, it's going to be 10 hours and these are the specific things that's going to be on. It's going to be on sport, or it's going to be on, some charity event, or whatever that is. So that can sort of be a way, it's the same as everything, like just planning and thinking in advance rather than reacting to things. So that's the first thing.
I like that. So taking time to plan, right? So like, planning out your day, planning out your week, planning out your quarter, planning out your year. So that's some of the things that we're going to be talking about on May 5th is, whether or not you have an optimized business model to scale. So that will be important.
Yeah, sure. So that's sort of a one bucket, which is the family, the life, that kind of thing. That we're always trying to find some kind of balance or harmony, perhaps between, being all of those things. The second piece, there's actually 3 things in what you've talked about. The second piece, to talk about, and I see this a lot, and I have to be like very disciplined to this. You get a lot of messages because of the network you have. I get a lot of messages. I have a podcast, so I'm often getting pitched on podcast guests, on on software, on marketing. It's a constant barrage. And firstly, just those messages in themselves can be quite distracting. So you need a bit of a system to filter those out. But I really have to say to a lot, I know of those, and I'm going to call them spam marketing. I mean, there's like a spam email, and then there's like, hey, can we jump on a call for 15 minutes? If I know, recently I had a vendor, they called me 20 times, spamming me on the phone. I could recognize the number, so I didn't pick it up. They never left a message. Finally, one day they called me from an unknown number, and I accidentally picked it up. And, and they're trying to pitch me. I'm like, okay, you've left me 20 messages. You've called me 20 times. I haven't picked up. You haven't left me a message. And, finally I said, look, send me an email if you want to talk to me. Tell me what this is about in detail. I said, it's unlikely that I'm going to get back on a call with you, but feel free to send the information. So, you just don't have to jump on calls with absolutely every person that comes your way. And particularly when it's sales and marketing, kind of promos like that, you have to say no to 99% of those. And I'm serious about 99%. Like if there's a piece of software that I'm interested in, or there's something I'm looking for, then I may get on a call, but I simply can't have calls with absolutely every piece that comes across my table. And I see a few people are joining us. Lee, are you able to hear me? Well, Jessica says
Yeah, it sounds like robot. I don't know. Do you hear it on my side, Jessica? Do I sound like a robot?
I'm just going to, Lee, I'll just hand it over to you for a moment. I'm just trying to fix this on my side. Just bear with me.
Sure. Yeah, no worries. So, welcome. I'm just curious to our guests, and by the way, our guests are going to be able to have a private conversation on our Zoom room following this live section. So we have some lovely members, and they're going to be focused on, talking about this challenge. So I'm really glad that they joined. So welcome, Jessica and Willie. I'm looking forward to having you in the Zoom room. So yeah, let's talk about some strategies. We have on our website a template for saying no. So that's really a helpful thing for people that they can use just to copy and paste. Because sometimes it's like having the courage to say no, but perhaps like a lot of things could be, somewhat templated, and then you just sort of adjust. And I know that there are people out there that have really strong boundaries around, things like networking and, overextending themselves. One of our guest speakers who I really admire, Jessica Holmes, she's quite incredible that way. Like she just knows, she knows what her area of genius is. She stays in that arena, and she, if she gets requests for other things, like, she doesn't have any problem just saying, like, I've got all I can handle in my world. And she does it in a way that, you just kind of respect her, because it's like almost like she's giving you permission to be the same way, right? So yeah, I think that having a couple of templates that you can easily say, copy and paste and say no to, or make another suggestion, recommend someone else potentially if that's appropriate. That's something that you can do as well.
Yeah, they're great advice, and hopefully everyone can hear me a little bit better now. I've taken off my headset. I think that's it. I mean, I think it's about respectfully saying no, and saying, no, either it's a no or it's no, not right now. Let me get back to you. I think you can be clear about whether it's don't say no, but call me later if you really don't want people to call you later. Just say, no, you know what, that's not a right fit for me. Thanks for checking in. Oh, great, really, thanks. You have those boundaries, because if you say no, call me later, then they're going to call you later, and you're going to be having that same conversation again. So I think, we have a little bit of a polite syndrome going on. It's like, oh, I'm afraid to hurt someone's feelings. I think just be, say, look, it's not a right fit for me. Thanks for the call. Wish you all the best, whatever that is. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's really important to set those boundaries. And, Lee, you talked about sort of, knowing the niche and knowing the industry, and just to expand on that, for me, it's also knowing knowing your niche, knowing your industry, but knowing what your deliverable is. What's your unique selling proposition? What is it that you really sell? And how do you serve people? And if those offers or partnerships are not in aligned with what you really sell, I mean, of course, you can do affiliate programs and promotions and things like that. But if they're not in alignment with what really you're selling, then just don't spend time on them. I mean, full stop. So that's as straightforward as that.
Yeah, I agree. And like, let's take a moment to talk about, how we get past that worry of like disappointing people or being perceived negatively, or that sort of thing, right? And then sometimes people can be a bit pushy back, right? So it's like you say no, but then they're like, well, why? And it gets into this awkward thing, and we're always so worried about hurting people's feelings, especially women. Like, not to stereotype women, but we tend to be the nurturers, we tend to be great leaders because we're very tapped into emotional intelligence and everything else. And so, like, I think that's probably one of the things I struggle with the most is, if I could help everyone, I would, right? If it's related to what I do, which is supporting women to achieve better gender equality, then it's really hard for me to say no, because I'm passionate about it. But I'm tapped out on the things that I really have to deliver on, and then that can cause some real challenges. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with people, perceiving you as not approachable or
yeah, I mean, again, I think I just have some boundaries around, particularly when people are asking me for some kind of, and I'll talk about it on a vendor side. We'll have another different conversation about the client side discovery call. But if it's sort of a vendor or it's a networking opportunity, I like to ask people up front, because usually you're having some kind of email dialogue, is like, what are your expectations of the call? What is the outcome that you're looking to achieve on this call? Now, if someone's trying to sell you something, they probably won't typically say, oh, I'm trying to sell you something. But, just sort of expectations and outcomes, I think asking that up front. I really am finding this structure very true with absolutely everything I do in business, which is sort of, it's like any meeting, setting the expectations and outcomes for the meeting. And when you force people's feet to the fire a little bit before they get on the call with you, they're going to either tell you what they want or they're not going to waste your time at the start. And I just think that's an easier way than if the conversation is going in a place that you don't want, literally to say, or the expectations are not aligned, just say, you know what, look, this is not really aligned with where I'm going in business right now. And so, thanks for the call. This is not the right fit for me. Now, it depends what the relationship is. If it's kind of more of a networking relationship, it's like, hey, this isn't the right fit for me, but, keep connected. If I think of anyone that might be a good fit, I'll be absolutely sure to recommend them. Or if you have any other questions, let me know, right? Or you just, I mean, that's sort of my tactic for it. I think establishing expectations and making people do a little bit of work before they jump on a call with you, right?
Yeah, agreed. So I love that you bring this up, because I think one thing that our listeners can do, and our members as well, is, set up a calendar scheduling system, right? So like I use a free one called Pip Time, and it's great, because what I do is I have a questionnaire that they have to fill out, like asking what they want to talk about. And when we work with our HR clients, we ask some more questions, right? So that we can gather as much information so that the call is super useful for everyone involved. And if they don't want to fill that information out, then they're really probably not that serious about getting the work done, and you can just save your time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think those tools are great. I use Calendly, has the same kind of functionality. So yeah, I definitely think sort of some pre-screening before you get on a call. The other thing, that I know certainly comes across your table quite a bit is, people looking for you, and this is not just Lee, but everyone, but looking for you to promote something for them or be their business associate with them. And it's like, oh, can you promote this? Can you promote that? Can you promote this, etc. That's a huge time consuming. Like, again, this is really being clear about how many, I'm going to say, affiliate or JV kind of promotions you will do in the year. And it's not about being unapproachable, but if you were to promote every single person who comes across your desk, that's a whole marketing department, basically. I mean, we know how challenging it is even to promote our own events, let alone promoting some other people's events. So for me, again, I sort of have a little mental checklist of, who I will and will not promote things for. It needs to be on brand with me, so I don't just promote, like, I don't know. I don't want to say things that I won't promote, because I don't want it to be disparaging to anybody's business. But there's some things just not aligned with my brand. There's some industries that I just won't work with. And like literally I've had, for example, I've had examples where people have invited me to a summit to do a summit, and summits are the great. It's like, oh, come on the summit. Well, summits are a lot of work. You've got to show up, you've got to do a presentation, you've usually got to send at least 5 to 10 emails, you've got a social media. So, summits are an example of it really needs to be the right fit. And, I did have an example a couple of years ago where I was interested in talking on summits, and someone invited me. It sounded great. Then they sent me their marketing material, and it was so poorly done. It was so off brand for me. I'm just like, I'm sorry, but this is off brand for me, and I cannot in good faith like present this to my client base. And the person on the other side of that was really annoyed. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but that's just not aligned with me. So I don't know that you can get away from hurting other people's feelings sometimes, but that's them. Your message and how they receive it, that's on them, how they receive it. It's got nothing to do with you. That's my perspective, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other issue too that, maybe we need to talk about is sometimes we have to say no even after we've said yes, right? So like, if your mental health is really bad, like if you're just in a bad place emotionally, and you're struggling to just cope with daily tasks, and then you have like this extra thing on your plate, right? So then it becomes like, what is critical, what can go. And I think it's important to know when you might do that. You don't want to be known of doing that all the time, but sometimes you realize something's more than you anticipated, or something else has turned out to be bigger than you anticipated. So sometimes you just have to be prepared to let things go and say no even after you've said yes. So what is your thoughts around that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes things, life gets in the way, right? Like there's so much going on. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. So yeah, you don't want to just flake out just because you don't feel like doing it. But I think, particularly if you've committed to someone, that you give it thought up front. I come from a project management background, so I sort of have these no-go milestones mentally in everything. Right. And I think the key is that there's almost a point that you need to know in your mind, like if you go past this point, it's really hard to pull out, right? But if you kind of can get in this point where, let's say you would being a speaker with something and someone else isn't relying on you, I think if you're able to give people enough time to fill that spot or fill in, great. I mean, again, like sometimes there's just emergencies that you just can't plan for, and that's the real outlier. But I think being respectful of how your decision is going to impact other people, and giving them and regardless if it's going to impact them, giving them time to fill that gap. Either you make a recommendation or support them in whatever way you can, but it just might not be the right time. And I mean, without again, there's some announcements coming in the next couple of months, but even you and I know that in our own partnership, like we've come in with good intentions to do some things, but we've had to pivot along the way and have some frank conversations about, what, I can't take on this right now, or I can't do this right now. So I think it's about having the right kind of partners as well, and people that well, you're going to have a much better conversation with.
I so agree with that. That's great. That's a seriously great recommendation. I like the point you make about giving them, setting them up with a great alternative, right? So I had that happen to me a few years ago when my stepfather passed away, and I was speaking at a conference. So I made a joke about my Carol Schulte, she's an incredible speaker, and we're known as looking alike, right? So everyone thinks we're sisters, that kind of thing. And so I was like, I've delivered you someone who even looks like me, and it worked out great. She had a really good time, and I had to focus on what I was dealing with at the time, because it was, literally like, I think the day before he passed away that the conference was on, and we knew he was on his way out. So
Yeah.
You know, there was no way I was going to try to fake myself through something like that. So, you know,
and that's not good for you, and that's not good for the provider of that or the recipients of that information. So
exactly.
I think
and
that's,
so I was just going to say, I think if people respond really negatively to a reasonable request, then that should be a red flag too.
Absolutely. And Lee, you know, just kind of in the last 5 minutes or so that we have today, I just want to shift track a little bit. You know, all of these are sort of leading to this. We've sort of talked about the vendor side, and we've talked about, you know, having that list of our priorities, evaluating opportunities to see how they support you. And it's not always one-sided. You know, it's a great networking opportunity. Is it helping your community? Is it, you know, driving your business forward? They might be a few things you think about. But, you know, in this last sort of 5 minutes or so, I just want to shift track a little bit to the client side, right? Saying yes or no to clients. And this is a place where, particularly when we're starting out in business, but even when you're established in business, sometimes you can fall into that trap of, if I say no to that client, I might not get any more clients, right? And, you know, so I'm not sure whether you've had that experience before where you felt like, oh, I can't say no to that person because I really need the money right now, or, you know, I might not get any other clients.
I've done it twice, and both times I've seriously regretted it. And because I am such a kind of tough, muddle through it person, you know, I stayed in a situation for longer than I should have, just because I wanted to win over the situation, win over the person. And so that's been a real challenge in the past. And so now, if I just even suspect that the values don't line up, or the person is rude, and, you know, we just can't, you know, give them a second chance and they're still rude, it's like, okay, no, it's not, I don't care, you know, I can always get a job at Starbucks.
That's right.
I can't be terrible at Starbucks, but
yeah. But I think
I'm multi-talented.
Yeah, exactly. You can all probably do, I don't know, serve a burger. I'm not sure, but you know, look, I think this is so important. I've been there before as well. I've taken on that client. They'd been like a huge headache. They'd made me feel bad about myself. They haven't. I felt bad about myself because of their behavior. You know, I felt like I didn't provide them a solution. So I just want to sort of, without, you know, going deep on this, particularly if you're in any kind of coaching industry, I think it's very, very critical to have a discovery call. And I just want to impress upon everyone that the discovery call is not just about the client interviewing you. You are interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you, right? So that's the first thing. This is not, and it really shouldn't be an interview per se, but it's not about that. You know, the second thing, in those discovery calls, I think it's important for you as the service provider, you know, absolutely to listen to their client, but sort of put some framework around that and guide them down a path of discussion where you're getting the information you need, not just them. They're saying, well, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? That's not how discovery calls work, right? You're trying to establish what is the client problem, how you can best serve them. And instead of just going into the sales pitch at the end of that, really pausing there to say, is that feeling like a good fit for you? And you're also establishing that. Like at that point, you could say, look, I've listened to what your challenge is. I don't think I'm the right person, you know, to support you in that. And that could be for a variety of reasons. If you're personally not just vibing, you know, you can still say, I'm not sure I'm the right fit for you. I think someone else would be better served to support you. So those discovery calls are really important. And there's a few red flags I look out for. When I'm speaking to clients, I want to know who they've worked with in the past. You know, why aren't they getting the results they need? Is it a knowledge gap? Is it a skills gap? Or is someone else to blame for them not getting the results. And as soon as I hear any kind of blame and I've been the victim, I will listen to it, because sometimes there are real reasons where someone has been let down or not served. But they're the sort of flags that I'm looking for. And I'm also looking to hear whether, when I'm giving feedback and recommendations during those calls, because I will always be adding value, I'm looking to see how people respond to that feedback. Are they defensive to that feedback? Are they thoughtful about that feedback? How do they respond to that feedback? Those are a few things that I will look for kind of as clues as whether this is the right person for me to work with. And again, then there's just like a general rapport with people that I think you can sort of intuitively say, hey, yeah, like I'd love to work with Lee, or I'd love to work with Willie, or I'd love to work with Jessica, right? There's sort of a sort of an intuitive piece that overlays that. So just a few tips, like how I run those discovery calls. And I'm getting better at it, because I do work a lot in my head, but I'm getting better to listen to my gut and physical sensations when I'm on those as well.
Yes. I've really tried to practice being a mindful business owner, and because, mindfulness is just so important to coping with being an entrepreneur, because it's really easy to get anxious about pretty much every aspect of your business. So it's like, okay, just getting into those intuition feelings and everything else is important. And and just knowing what your boundaries are, like if you have to write them or whatever you have to do, right? They're important.
Absolutely.
So maybe post them in your office.
Yeah, that's right. We're at sort of the 30-minute mark today. If anyone has any questions before we wrap up, please pop them in the chat. We'll be happy to chat about those. And Lee, maybe you want to just pop in the chat now, the live, the Zoom link for our members, if anyone wants to join us over there on Zoom. But I just want to remind everyone, it's okay to say no. And, the last part about that, saying no actually opens up a whole lot of other opportunities. It gives you more energy for the things that you want to be doing and the experiences that you want to be having. And sometimes it's okay to leave that space. Don't feel scared that no other clients are coming along. If you offer a good service and you're out there being visible, more clients will come along. And, those bad clients or bad experiences actually can damage your reputation more. So just stay away from them. Try not to fall into that scarcity mindset as much as you can.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, I'm just popping the link in right now. Give me a second here. So to our listeners, this will be live after the fact, and not live, sorry. It's going to be continue to live. And so you can respond to the, enjoy adding to the conversation, adding suggestions, adding, your thoughts around this, because this is a topic that really impacts women. And, the more that we can come together and discuss how, we can make a difference with what we say yes to and what we say no to, so that it can create a better life for yourself. I think it's important. So we really welcome your feedback. So please send us some comments. And now we're ready to go over to Zoom for any of our members who want to chat about saying no and what wonderful things can happen when you do that.
Yeah, perfect. So leave us a comment in the Facebook comments or the LinkedIn comments below this video. We're here every week on a Tuesday, 11 a.m. If you've got a topic you want us to share our experiences with or join in the conversation, come and join us. We're glad to be here being raw and real with you in the whole messy life of business. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.